Hi, I'm Perry Atkinson, General Manager here at theDove. Hey, check out our other videos and check out our website at thedove.us. There we go. Are we on? Testing. All right, there we go. I'm Perry Atkinson. Welcome to Focus Today. Well, we are delighted to have with us today Matthew Clark. He's Associate Counsel for Government Affairs and also Media Advocacy. He is with the ACLJ in Washington, D.C. Perhaps you have read some of his articles that he's published in the Washington Post and also on the ACLJ's docket blog. But today I wanted to find out what's going on with this proposed lawsuit against the president by the U.S. Speaker of the House, John Boehner. So, Matthew, nice to have you with us, my friend. Good to see you.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. This
is a fascinating thing. I don't know if we've ever seen a threat come out of the Speaker's House, the Speaker of the House, to sue the United States president. What's this? How does this work?
Well, what Speaker of the House John Boehner has said is that he is willing to stand on the Constitution and take this president, this imperial president, to task. We actually represented Speaker Boehner in filing an amicus brief in the decision last week that came down by the Supreme Court unanimously striking President Obama's attempt to essentially make non-recess appointments. So you can see a pattern here. There's been about over a dozen cases that the Supreme Court has unanimously struck down attempts, overreach attempts by this president. And this would just be one more avenue that Speaker Boehner could take to rein in and control these out-of-control attempts to gain extra power outside of the constitutional system.
I don't think any of us are arguing the fact that this president's imperialistic and certainly violating his constitutional responsibilities by following the checks and balances set forth and even going to Congress on certain. In fact, even yesterday, I mean, the gall of just saying to the Congress, forget you, I'll take care of immigration on my own. And I want to come to that a little bit later on. But really, can you get a lawsuit to do anything while he's still in office? I mean, could this thing get drug out and nobody's ever going to see it? Who's going to prosecute it?
Well, it certainly could be. The system works within Congress where the Speaker of the House has control of a committee. It's made up of two of the leaders from the Republicans, two of the leaders from the Democrats, but also himself. So he would be the tie-breaking vote, where he is able to actually take legal authority. He would have his own attorneys be able to file the case against the president. There are various things that he could allege in that case. The details have not yet come out, but as you just mentioned, there are so many examples of overreach by this president that there are so many ways that he could use such a lawsuit to sue the president. So we've seen, as I just said, in the Canning case where the president was sued for making non-recess appointments, anything that the president would be sued about here, again, the details haven't come out of exactly what he is going to allege, but that would take place, and it may take a few years, but we could get a ruling before the end of the president's term.
Okay. In the meantime, he continues on as if this lawsuit's not even in place. Why don't we, with all due respect, why aren't we impeaching him for abuse of powers?
Well, as Speaker Boehner said, there's essentially three options that Congress has. First would be impeachment, second would be to file a lawsuit, and third would be the power of the purse. Well, we know in the first and third example, impeachment and the power of the purse, while Congress can pass as many laws as they want, when that goes to the Senate, we know what the makeup of the Senate is right now, and the Senate would never vote to impeach the president or to convict the president after an impeachment in the House. So with those examples, the one remaining that the House can take action by itself and doesn't have to wait for the Senate is with a lawsuit. So you could try to impeach the president. It may be a little too strong, a little too far, but the Senate would never go anywhere in the Senate at the current time.
Is that possible if there was a turnover in the Senate after this fall's election?
It's possible, but still very unlikely. We haven't seen the level of high crimes and misdemeanors out of this president. We've seen the ignoring of the Constitution, and a lawsuit is certainly the way to go all the way up to the Supreme Court and could overturn any of President Obama's executive overreach, any of these executive orders where he has essentially said, I don't want to follow the Constitution. Because when he says the system is stacked against, when he's talking about the system, he's talking about the constitutional system of checks and balances. He wants to avoid that. He wants to go against Congress here. And so that's why you're seeing this lawsuit being threatened by Speaker Boehner and going to be filed.
All right. If by chance this is successful and it sticks, does that mean some of these executive orders would be automatically overturned?
That's exactly what it would mean. And again, just using the example of last week in the Canning case with the non-recess appointments, there were over 1,000 rulings of the National Labor Relations Board that were struck down because his appointments to that board were struck down. So these kind of lawsuits have a real effect, make a real difference. And so that's what we're seeing. That's what the direction that we're seeing Speaker Boehner go. And it really could have an impact.
Okay, Hobby Lobby, quite a victory, but yet it's a very narrow opinion. Can you comment on it?
Yeah, it was a tremendous victory for religious liberty. You had a president who essentially said that religious business owners, Christian business owners, had to make a choice between what he considered the cost of doing business or violating their faith. If they refused to violate their faith, he was going to charge them $36,500 per employee per year as a penalty for not providing abortion pills. Now, as you noted, the ruling is somewhat narrow, but the focus of this case, because it was brought by for-profit businesses, so that was the focus of the Supreme Court's ruling in this case. Right. There are a number of other cases brought by nonprofits, Little Sisters of the Poor for one. There are many, many other examples, and those cases will continue. Now, the first case that was decided by the 11th Circuit immediately following, within hours of the Supreme Court's decision in Hobby Lobby, granted an injunction to a nonprofit, a TV station, a Christian TV station actually, and giving that Christian TV station the ability to not follow the HHS mandate. So we've seen the ripple effects start to come down from the Supreme Court's decision on Hobby Lobby, and that will continue. So there are many cases left, but it sets the precedent that religious liberty cannot be violated.
All right, that's fabulous. All right, well, the president basically has thumbed his nose at Congress and said he's going to take on immigration himself. Do you have any idea what he means by this? What he's going to do?
Well, he's being very vague in what he's talking about. But regardless of what you feel should be done about immigration, the bottom line is the president does not have the authority to go it alone, to thumb his nose at not only Congress, but the Constitution itself. There are checks and balances. There's a separation of power. Any legislation must come through Congress. It cannot be done by executive fiat, by dictation of President Obama, and that's what he's attempting to do here. The various things he's threatening, we don't know exactly how he's going to accomplish it, most likely with executive orders, but those, again, can be challenged. They will be challenged, and this president cannot. He wants to circumvent Congress, but the Constitution is once again in his way.
Matthew, would you say we're in a constitutional crisis? I mean, the very forming of this republic and the Constitution, Declaration, the three branches of government was to prevent a runaway tyrannical president, an imperialistic president. We have one, and our system's not preventing it.
Well, I would actually say that President Obama is attempting to create a constitutional crisis. But thus far, we've seen, over the past week, we've seen 4 different cases striking down various attempts of President Obama to violate the Constitution. So you do have a Supreme Court that is a check to that. You do have Congress that is a check to that. He is attempting to circumvent the system. The system is slow. It takes a long time sometimes for these cases to come down to hold back his power. But the action is being taken, and the system is working. Now, that does not make any excuse for what President Obama is attempting. And certainly the American people need to stand up, have their voices heard, and say, enough of this. We will not allow it. Elections are one way to do it. Calling your member of Congress, writing to the president, all of these things can make a difference. Standing up in the media and having your voice heard really does impact, because President Obama isn't able to get away with whatever he wants if the people stand up and say no.
Thank you. And before I let you go, back to Speaker Boehner's lawsuit, can Attorney General Eric Holder thwart this in any way?
Well, he would be representing President Obama in this case and his whole Department of Justice, but he can't prevent it from actually being filed. So if Speaker Boehner uses the system I described within the House of Representatives to set up through their own attorneys to file this, the Attorney General, this would be one situation. This would not run through the DOJ. So Attorney General Holder would not be able to thwart it before it ever got off the ground.
Well, Matthew, thank you for what you do, and Jay and Jordan, the whole crew there. You guys are terrific. Keep up the good work, and I look forward to having you back soon.
Well, thank you, and thanks for covering this.
All right, God bless. All right, we'll be right back.